Completing the square is kind of a long way to factor, but sometimes it definitely does come in handy. So here are your steps to doing that. Okay, you want to take your C value to the other side. Then I want to divide middle term in half. And square it. The next thing, and add it to both sides. That's important. Those could be broken up into different steps probably. Step 3 is to factor the left. And step 4 is to set your factors equal to the plus or minus. And then step 5 is to solve. And those might make a little more sense as we go through this. So the first 4 that we're looking at, we just want to know what we're going to add to both sides, because that's like our first 2 steps is deciding what to do. So what we're doing in this is we're dividing the middle in half. And then we're going to square. So it's not always going to be a nice number. Like the first one is not a nice number. So to divide -7 in half, you do -7 halves. Then what you're going to do is you're going to square that. Okay, when you square a fraction, what you're doing is taking -7 halves times -7 halves, which is positive 49 fourths. So what you're adding to that is 49 fourths. And that's going to add to both sides of this. So this one's a little bit nicer. The next one, you're taking 42 and dividing it by 2. Well, 42 divided by 2 is 21. So then you're going to take 21 and square it, and 21 squared is 441. So you're going to add 441 to both sides. On number 3, taking your middle, 9, and dividing it by 2, which is 9 halves. Then you're going to take 9 halves and square it, which is 9 halves times 9 halves, which is 81 fourths. And that's what you're going to add to that. So now you have a fraction. Fractions freak us out, but they're not that hard. We're taking 1/6 and dividing it by 2. Okay, so what that means is we're taking -1/6, -1/6, and we're multiplying it by its opposite reciprocal, which is 1/2. 2/1, sorry. So when we're dividing it by 2, we're multiplying it, we're multiplying it by a half. Taking half of it. So that's going to give us -1/12. So then we're going to square that, which is -1/12 times -1/12, which is a positive 1/144. And that is going to be your solution to that one. Okay, so that's what we're adding to both sides. So now we're going to do the long part of this. So this is every part of this. So our first step said to take your C value to the other side. So we're going to move this. So when you cross the equal sign, you have to make it negative. So we're going to leave a space here because we're going to put something there. So -65. And then we're also going to leave a space here because whatever we add in one spot, we're going to add in both. Because technically you have to balance out the equation. So now, step 2, divide the middle term in half. So 18 divided by 2 is 9. Then we're going to square it. So now we're going to do 9 squared, which is 81. Then add that to both sides. 81, 81. Okay, so now we're going to factor the left-hand side. We're going to look at this and we're going to say, what does this factor to? Well, what that's going to factor to is b plus 9 and b plus 9, which is really b plus 9 squared. Then we're going to add these together, and that's going to give us 16. So now you're at something that you can use the square root property for. So what you want to do next is solve them for the plus or the minus. So this is going to be b plus 9 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 16, because that's how we're going to get rid of this. So we know that the square root of 16 is either 4 or -4. So you're going to get b plus 9 equals 4, or b plus 9 equals negative 4. So now you're just solving this for b. Subtract 9 to get that b equals negative 5. Subtract 9 here to get that b equals negative 13, and those are your two solutions for that. So really what this does is it takes us back around to the square root property instead of having to do long method of factoring, because sometimes that's not going to work, but this will work. Okay, so let's look at another one. First step, take this to the other side. So I have x squared plus 16x plus a blank, and then we're going to subtract that. So we're going to take that to the other side and get negative 35, and we're going to add a blank. Step 2 says that we want to take the middle term, 16, and divide it by 2. That's going to give us 8. Then we're going to take 8 and we're going to square it to get 64. So we're going to put 64 in here. We're going to put 64 in here because we have to balance and add it to both sides. Step 3 says we want to factor this side. So what multiplies a 64 that adds to 16 is x plus 8 and x plus 8. So that's going to give us x plus 8 quantity squared. Then we're going to add these together, and that's going to give us 29. Okay, so our next step then is to take the square root. To get rid of this, we have to take the square root. So x plus 8 is going to be equal to plus or minus the square root of 29. So the square root of 29 doesn't have anything that it breaks down to. It's a prime number. So the only thing that you have left to do is move this 8 to the other side. And you can't put it inside the square root because it doesn't go there. So your answer to this would be negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 29. And that's your final answer to this. So this one you definitely could not have solved by factoring. You would have had to use the quadratic formula and gotten this, and this could be the faster method to doing that. So this is what completing the square looks like.